A dramatic warning here at home to tell you about the Department of Homeland Security tonight, telling law enforcement agencies that homegrown right-wing extremist groups are growing. They're gaining strength, according to the report, by exploiting fears about President Obama's race, as well as fears about the economy. Today at Georgetown University, President Obama spoke at great length about the economy. He didn't discuss this possible terror threat, but he pointed to progress on lending and the stimulus. He also warned of more hardship ahead.
2009 will continue to be a difficult year for America's economy, and obviously most difficult for those who've lost their jobs. The severity of this recession will cause more job loss, more foreclosures, and more pain before it ends.
It's precisely those job losses and foreclosures that the Homeland Security report is now concerned about. The report also warned that right-wing extremists may try to recruit returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan who come back to find their jobs gone or their homes taken. We should point out that the Department of Homeland Security does assessments like this all the time. They are routine. This time, though, the conclusion could be anything but. Here to talk about it and help make sense of it is national security analyst Peter Bergen. You know, Peter, we really haven't heard much about right-wing extremist groups much since the mid-90s. Why is that?
I think the Oklahoma City bombing attack by Timothy McVeigh, himself an Iraq War veteran, clearly, did immense damage to the right-wing militia movement. You could recall Waco, Ruby Ridge. There was a lot of activity, the Michigan militias, other of these groups. But, when you kill 168 Americans, any kind of legitimacy that these groups might have enjoyed basically disappeared. You may recall, Anderson, that President Clinton used the occasion of the Oklahoma City attack to really be able to turn around the view of the federal government, which was under attack from Newt Gingrich and others, Republicans. And so there was sort of a sea change after the attack, and I think since then we really haven't heard much about the right-wing militia.
The report also talks about the danger of lone wolves, small terrorist cells, small cells. Are we better prepared to deal with it since Oklahoma?
No doubt. I mean, when Timothy McVeigh, purchased 1,000 pounds of fertilizer for an ammonium bomb, that kind of activity basically would be very, very hard to do now. You didn't have a Department of Homeland Security. You didn't have these joint terrorism task forces around the country, fusion centers, and the FBI, of course, having a very aggressive intelligence gathering operation to defeat these kinds of groups. So, even if the right-wing militia movement does grow, which is possible, as this DHS report points out, it would be much harder for them to implement an attack in today's environment.
Southern Poverty Law Center also says a number of these fringe groups are growing, both on the right and also other forms of extremists. A lot of them using, according to this report at least, the Homeland Security report, using President Obama's race as a recruitment tool.
No doubt, and of course the Secret Service is very concerned about attempts against the president's life. Michelle Obama and others around the president when he was a candidate asked for protection relatively early on because of those concerns. The one thing that was really surprising to me, Anderson, in this is the number of veterans who the FBI identifies as joining right-wing militia groups, 200. Obviously a very small proportion of the number of veterans coming out of Iraq or Afghanistan. That's still 200 people.
And the title of this, we're on the bottom of the screen, is Recession Radicals. I mean, around the world, in times of economic times, extremist groups grow. Indeed.
I mean, the Nazi Party came out of the Great Depression in Germany, and we've seen, that story repeated time and time again. I think DHS is just doing what is appropriate, which is to warn local law enforcement that this is a potential problem.
All right, good to keep in mind. Peter Bergen, appreciate your expertise. Thank you, Peter. Sobering report. Let us know what you think about it. Join the live chat happening now at ac360.com.